Alright folks, welcome to the Don's channel. I am the Donfather and I'm now going to be reviewing the game between Geelong and Hawthorn, round 2, 2020 at the GMHBA Stadium in Geelong. Before I start, I'll just quickly talk about yesterday. Collingwood and Richmond, obviously at the MCG, first game back from the break because of COVID-19. It was a very, very low scoring game. It's the first draw that's happened between these two sides as well since I think it was something ridiculous like 1917, 103 years, and funnily enough the last time it happened it was off the back of the Spanish flu, another pandemic. So bizarre stats indeed. It did finish a draw, it was 36 each. It wasn't a very entertaining game from what I've been led to believe. I did see the last quarter, it was very, very frantic the last quarter. Richmond fought their way back in and you couldn't help but think if the quarters had been longer, Richmond possibly would have won that, but great start it was for Collingwood straight away. It looked like they weren't going to be stopped, but as I said, Richmond managed to battle their way back in and achieve the draw. So anyway, on to today's game, or tonight's game down under at the GMHBA Stadium. Absolutely incredible game, by the way. Really good game. What I do want to say is the scoreline at the end of this is exceptional. And what you've got to take into consideration when you're thinking about the scoreline is we've got like 16 minutes less play time than what we usually have. Obviously it's 16 minutes a quarter rather than 20. Of game time, actual play time. So could you imagine what the scoreline could potentially have been in this game if you had the same amount of play time? Anyway, first quarter, 5-2, 32 to 4-1, 25 in favour of Geelong. Dalhouse, Stanley, Atkins, Gary Ablett Jr, Selwood. Gary Ablett Jr in this first, all goal scorers for Geelong, I should say. Gary Ablett Jr from the right hand boundary line did not panic, picked up the footy, looked across, he's seen Stanley in space, and you know what, the execution of the kick across the field inside the Hawthorn's defensive 50 in front of the goal square, picked him out a treat, and Stanley took the mark and he did not miss with the kick. Fantastic. Stanley himself was pretty good in the first quarter. I think he actually set up Dalhouse's goal, and maybe it was Gary Ablett Jr.'s goal as well. I can't remember off the top of my head, but he was involved in 3 goals in the opening few minutes. Maybe it was Atkins. I can't just remember who it was, but he certainly had his impact in the first quarter. Goal scorers then for Hawthorn, in the first quarter were Hanrahan, Burgoyne and Gunston. I thought Burgoyne was quite good in the first half of the game. His goal, and that was actually pretty good, it was like a soccer type goal he scored. And it was great to see him out there. He's a player I admire. What is he, 37 years old? He looks fit, he looks fresh, as does Ablett Jr, as did Selwood today, and Dangerfield as well. He was making his 250th appearance of his career in the AFL, so incredible. He looked quite fresh today. I think the break possibly had helped these guys getting back to that sort of sharpness. They've obviously been training really hard behind the scenes, and they did not look like they weren't match fit. They played really well. So anyway, on to the second quarter then. Half-time scoreline was 7-4-46 to 6-4-40. A goal between it. Hawthorn come back with a couple of goals, but from Brewiston Patton and Ablett Jr again for his second of the game at this point, and Dalhouse for his second. It was an arm wrestle the second quarter. As I said, both teams got 2 goals apiece. Did I say that Gunston got 2 in the first quarter? I don't know if I mentioned that. Hanrahan, Burgoyne and Gunston got 2 in the first quarter. That's what I should have said, but it was 2 apiece in terms of goals and at half time for the 2 teams, and a goal between them. Arm wrestle type second quarter going in at half time. Well, that changed pretty quickly in the third and the fourth. Geelong stamped their authority on the game, took the fucking bull by the horns, and just absolutely annihilated the fucking Hawks. No joke. Stanley got 1 in the third, Myers got 2, Duncan got 1, Menegola got 1, and Dangerfield scored his only goal of the game to to sort of, I suppose, make his day an even more special one for his 250th appearance. He gets a goal as well. And O'Brien getting the only goal for Hawthorn in this quarter. Absolutely demolished them in the third. Seriously, very, very slick footy being played just on top of them. Wouldn't give them a moment's peace. Hunted in packs. Were good in front of goal. Clinical as well. Clinical, slick play by Ablett Jr. In the second half, Ablett Jr. was rolling back the years. I just thought it was such a special performance from him. His possessions might not have mounted in terms of how much possessions he actually had compared to other people, but what he did with his possessions in the game far outweighed everybody else. He just makes the whole play seem to slow down around him. He plays with intelligence. His footy IQ is far greater than everybody else. It's just a pleasure to watch. Honestly now, if you can watch the highlights back and it shows you some of Gary Ablett's highlights in this, it was breathtaking at times. He just drops the shoulder, changes direction, picks out a sort of an intentional, accurate pass and gets his team on the front foot again. I just love the way he goes about his business. Again, one of the older senior players who I was quite critical of at the end of 2019. Probably because I think it was all going wrong for Geelong at the end of 2019. But at that point you wanted the senior players, your Dangerfields, your Selwoods, Taylors, obviously Ablett Jr. These are the guys you rely on when you're needing that little bit of inspiration. But all these guys did step up today, and I was really impressed with their performance. Anyway then, that was 13-6, 84, 7-5, 47 going in at 3/4 time. It was an absolute going over as well in the fourth. No goals for Hawthorn to report. Atkins got his second again. Myers with his third. Menengola with his second, and Rowan with his first, who actually did look like he was going to struggle a bit in injury. Whatever way he landed, his leg kind of went back underneath him and he was leaned on. Can't remember who the Hawks player was at the time. Completely accidental, of course. But he's managed to shrug that sort of knock off and play on and get his goal in the fourth. Credit to him for doing that. Flick, full time, 17-6, 108, 7-5, 47. They never managed a single behind or anything in that last quarter, Hawthorn. It was an absolute annihilation. And I don't put that down to Hawks being poor, because I actually thought at times they were playing some pretty good stuff. They were playing with a little bit of intensity at times. They were just absolutely battered, and I mean battered. Make no mistake about that, by the far superior team on the day. As I said, all these senior players were rolling back the years today. And the younger players, the likes of your Myers, let me think here, who else was in it? Atkins played well. The young man, what's his name? My head's went blank, but I know who he is. The indigenous boy with the bleached blonde hair. My head's went blank. He played really, really well. I liked some of the footy he did. Played with a little bit of composure. But a lovely blend there so far at the start of the season for Geelong, between their senior players and their younger players. Hopefully it can continue for the Cats fans, because do you know what? When they are on their day, they are one of the best teams in the AFL. There's no doubt about that. The bye week last year, whatever happened to them, they just fell apart, didn't they? In finals footy, they obviously made finals footy, but they weren't convincing in that either. So far so good for the Cats. Hawks, look, lick your wounds, go again. I'm sure they'll bounce back, but next week they're at the MCG against a team that's so formidable at the MCG in Richmond. Of course they never managed their win yesterday, but they are ruthless at the MCG against most opposition, so it's going to be difficult for Hawks. As I say, dust themselves off after this one. They were beaten by the better team, but do you know what? Go out there, it's a new game next week, and you never know what can happen. Footy is an incredible game for throwing up crazy scorelines sometimes, and you never know, do you? But the Tigers at the MCG, all I'll say is extremely, extremely difficult. thanks very much for watching the review. As I was going to say, I wasn't really going to bore you with disposal counts. You can check them yourselves on the AFL, different AFL platforms, all the AFL media platforms. You'll get your disposals. I just wanted to say, my best and fairest today, there's absolutely no doubt about this, and this was down to how slick he was on the footy. It has got to be Gary Ablett. He was just different class today. Everything he done today was just so composed, so deliberate. And the great players just seem to make time slow down around him, and they're so graceful about what they do. His accuracy and his kicking is just breathtaking. His handball and everything, but the movement, the way he drops a shoulder, turns and leaves his man on him for dead and just finds that yard of space to pick out a pass is just incredible. Any young budding footballer coming up, just watch that today. That is how you do it. That was a slick performance. There's a reason why people consider this man the greatest player of the modern era, and with that sort of performance, I can see why. Thanks very much, everyone. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. There's going to be more footy reviews over the weekend, and of course all my other stuff, the reactions and all that kind of good stuff that we already do on the channel. Predictions are looking okay so far. I did put down obviously Richmond column. I put down Richmond for the win. That ended in stalemate between the two, but I picked Geelong, so we're on to a decent enough get-go on my prediction front. How are you guys doing on the AFL tipping? Obviously it's our tipping competition as well. I'm not too sure where the leaders are on the leaderboard. I don't know if many people would have picked a draw in yesterday's game, but if you did, credit to you. I mean, that's just fluke as far as I'm concerned. But I will check out the leaderboard there after tomorrow and put up where we are so far after tomorrow. Fletcher Manning was leading after round 1. Can he hold on to the position at the end of round 2? We'll just have to wait and see. Thanks very much, everyone. Check out all of our social media platforms in the description section below. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, all that kind of stuff. And if you could, please become a patron. It really does help the channel grow. And if you do that, there's loads of different things that you can get from us as a channel, such as, depending on your tier, a physical gift from the channel, or if you put the basics of tiers, you can receive a request of your choice for us to do a reaction to, and a personalised shout out to you. Or somebody else you might want to have in your family, a shout out to them, whatever, you let me know. But all patrons, that's exclusive to you. Thanks very much, everyone. I'll see you all soon. Goodbye.